hear me? Is this all right? No.
She's so high maintenance. All right, so in the winter, other than Comic-Con, I mean, what do you do? What's the average winter temperature? Everybody tells me this is a warm snap. So, like, what's normal temp right now?
That depends on where you are.
That's cold. That's cold. So how many of you have a house you don't even need a refrigerator? Anybody store in the snow? Yeah. That's crazy. 40 below. I was on top of a mountain skiing and there was a wind chill of negative 60. And but that was just when the wind was below it. So
We get that without the wind.
yes. Yeah. Wow. What? Negative 75? There's a name for that. I think it's hell. I mean, wow. 75. Like, I mean, how do you don't even get your car started in weather like that. Does your car start? You guys have, how many engine block heaters? Anybody? Does it work in temperatures like that?
Yeah. For the most part. Yeah.
All right. I'll put that on my to-do list. All right. God, negative 75. Like, you can't have exposed skin. Like, that's just... Whew. All right. And the good news, in 10,000 years, when your bodies are found, you'll be just the same. Frozen like a popsicle. All right. Well, questions, answers? What do you guys want to know? Yes, I'm wearing underwear. No, I never slept with Kimberly. I think we'll just start with 2 right there. Or Trini. That never happened either. But Trini's my favorite. I might have. You got a question, little guy? You know how cool you feel when you do something really special for your mommy and daddy? You know how good that makes you feel? And you can just smile, whether you're with them or not, just knowing that that was pretty awesome. That's what being a hero feels like. It's pretty cool. You can just smile even when you're not around people you know you're helping. Good question. Anything else? True? We all see each other from time to time. I mean, but we all live in different places, different lives, families, schedules. So, I mean, getting us together is like herding cats. You know? But Power Morphicon, and how many, I know you've heard Power Morphicon, if you're a Power Rangers fan. If not, welcome to the new information. PMC is like the mecca for the Power Rangers. If you want to go and meet 100 cast members from the show, that's the place to go. And it only happens once every 2 years. So we see each other there quite often. The film premiere 2017 for the newest film, for the oldest film, newest film I guess, newest oldest 2017 film. We were all at the premiere there together. So I mean we get around, we see each other from time to time. And Walter is still my best friend of 26 years, so he's a long time pal of mine. What's up? What was my favorite enemy to defeat? You mean other than my ex-girlfriend? I feel like Goldar and I fought constantly. Like that was my job. And job description, it didn't say he carries the power of the Tyrannosaurus. It says he will fight Goldar every day. So Goldar was pretty cool in the world of fight. But I think I had the most fun just giving Rita a headache. And my favorite everyday fight were the buddies. I mean, think about it. If there were no buddies, how interesting would the big fights have been? Like the buddies are the unsung hero of the show. They're all the stunt guys. These guys helped make the show just as much as the Rangers did. So, and they got beat up daily. So I have the greatest respect for the stunt guys for the show. You should too if you ever meet them. They took some beatings. Next.
How hard and complicated it was just to run around and do backflips in a suit?
How hard was it to run around and do backflips in a suit? Well, old are you?
11.
In another few years, as you mature, you'll understand more of what I'm about to say. So physically, it was easy to run around in spandex because it's very stretchy. You know, there's all sorts of, I mean, it's really tight, but it's very stretchy. It moves with you. So it's not like it was going to tear. Mentally, putting an 18-year-old boy who's just coming into manhood in something skin tight and asking him to run around and do flips on TV, that took some adjusting. That's all I'm going to say. But I got used to it. It was a lot of fun. The hardest thing about really wearing the suit and doing any of the training is when we had the helmets, because you put them on and within seconds they would fog up. So, and the original helmet, so again, I'm an 18-year-old guy, I break everything. I'm older than that now, I still break everything. So I think I take pleasure in it. That should have been in Jason's job description, breaking. We broke the city every day anyway. But the helmets, they brought in a $3,000 helmet from Japan, and I was, you know what, this is the original piece from Zayu Rangers, and Geki wore this, it's $3,000, don't break it. You're handing this to me and then asking me to jump in with those 12 putties over there, fight them all over the place, do flips, jump off of stuff, and you're telling me not to break this. Needless to say, it wasn't long before they discovered the error of their ways. And then they created stunt helmets, and then there was photo op helmets, and there were many different helmets for many different things. And then we got so busy filming that a lot of times I couldn't even get in the suit to go do the stunts because the other camera units were running and they had to see our faces. So if Alpha unit was filming all the face footage, Charlie unit was over here filming stunts with all the Rangers, so they'd put stunt guys in there. And you could always tell, because my Red Ranger guy, you know when I was in the suit. Because some of the other guys were little Japanese builds. Just teeny tiny, and I was built like a brick house. So you know when I'm in the suit if you pay attention. Yes?
Could you tell us about the auditioning process?
That is a really long story. Well, they advertised it. So there's something called a cattle call in LA. I'll get you next, okay, darling? It's a cattle call. Essentially, they go in, it's just like reading the paper, looking for job openings. It's that for actors. And they put in the LA papers and all the other papers out there, you know, come on by, blah, blah, blah. We're looking for 5 teenagers with attitude for a show called Phantoms. And I wasn't an actor, I didn't want to be an actor, but I was working with a acting coach who talked me into come to his acting class so I could bring his students into my dojo and get more clientele. So it was kind of a trick. So he, for 3 weeks, nagged the you-know-what out of me. He's like, you need to go to this audition. I was like, wrong answer, buddy. I don't like cameras, I don't like big groups of people. Like I'm an insecure 17-year-old boy who thinks he knows it all. And I definitely did not. So I ended up finally, after 3 weeks, he's like, hey, I'll bet you $20 that if you go, you won't be wasting your time. He was right. I lost $20. 5 auditions later, I signed on to a show that aired in 40 countries and 90 languages. And somebody from a network, I don't remember where I was in the world, somebody from Fox Network came by. He says, you're not just 40 countries and 90 languages. He says, do you know that your show has gone down in history as the greatest show ever recorded? And I thought, Star Trek, Star Wars, I mean, there's a million shows. And he's like, yeah, he goes, yours is still running, still filming, like over 1,000 episodes. I was like, I don't know if that qualifies for great-est. I mean, just saying, right? I don't know. What do you think? Well, Trini, the elevator. She was my favorite. She's a good girl. Yes, sir.
Was it hard to control the Green Ranger powers when Tommy gave them to you?
No, I already whipped his butt and invited him to the team.
I'm just saying, though, that when he gave you his power coin, though, because Rita was getting his powers though before that.
No, there wasn't much to that one. It was fun, though. The Gold Ranger, I was holding the power of 3 Rangers at one time, though. Yeah, I'm the only Ranger in the history of the show to do that. People are like, oh, the White Ranger's the most powerful. I'm like, no, you should check out the Gold Ranger. 17 episodes. Anyway. Bueller. Have you guys even seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Okay, so you get the reference. All right. Cool. Well, what's up? Questions, thoughts? In the back. What was my favorite fighting move? Almost none of what I could do on TV. Because I wanted to do it real, not really kick people and hurt them, but I wanted to do what I call real martial arts, not the Hollywood-esque stuff that you guys are used to seeing today. And we weren't allowed to punch people or kick people in the head, which made me insane. Like, I really wanted to do that, but we couldn't. So I was often really frustrated with, I probably did several hundred fights and never being able to hit somebody in the head. You start to run out of options. I'm just saying. I can't kick him in the booty. There's no, between the leg shots. I can't kick him in the head. How many different ways can we kick somebody in the stomach? You know what I mean? Or the Z, when the Z came up. I was like, at least they made it specific and now they understand why we're not punching people in the head. But if you go back and you watch the original unaired pilot, you see my fight where the first time I fight Bulk at the bowling alley, you see my foot coming up and flying, and then they cut. And then my foot's on the other side of his face, and his head has done this, but you never, they cut the gaps out. So I had this huge fight with the bully, and they cut out every single strike I threw, except for the last one where I kicked him in the butt and sent him down on a skateboard. He had a skateboard and a shirt, and that's how he went sliding down the bowling alley lane. So I was really frustrated with that. They're like, this is too violent, we can't do that. Fox sent it back, they cut it all apart. And meanwhile, if you look at the original Trini, you haven't even seen that either. Audrey Dubois, how many of you know her name? She is the very first Yellow Ranger for the unaired pilot. And if you go back and watch the very same episode, the original unaired pilot, that was all Audrey Dubois originally. But there's one scene where they missed cutting her out. So if you go back and watch it, in the rocks where we're being attacked for the first time, just before we morph, there's an overhead shot where it's not Thuy Trang who played Trini with the long, beautiful, long Asian hair. It was Audrey, and you can see in the overhead shot, for a blink, her short cropped hair and her great Latin skin. So go back, that's an Easter egg for those of you who maybe didn't catch it at 5. I understand. Next. Yeah.
Were any of your lines in Monsters at Large influenced?
So I did a film for Lionsgate 2 years ago, maybe 3 now. And it was a film I had no involvement in, I didn't even know about it. And they were bringing in some soap opera guy to be opposite of Misha Barton. And he was going to be the husband, and it was maybe 15-20 minutes he's in the film. Well, he didn't show up, he canceled on the film. So the whole production is already in order, filming is going on, and they're in a panic because one of the supporting leads they need isn't there. So the directors and producers start calling director and producer friends and saying, do you have anybody nearby, anybody who could help? And a director friend of mine called me up and asked me to come in. He goes, would you mind saving this film? Because the film's gonna crash if they can't get somebody, and I think you can deliver, would you check it out? So they sent me the script, I read the script. The script was kind of cool, that line was not in there. There was one line that was put in, the producers pulled me aside and they were like, hey, listen, one of the producers is a fan, and he'd like to rewrite one of your lines when you're talking with your son. I was like, oh boy, what are we gonna do? And that line, so I'm in there, and my son's doing crazy stuff, and I'm trying to be the dad, and there's the wife, and it's this nice, homely little conversation. And at some point, my son, I don't remember what it was he said, but I have to look at him, and something to the effect of, because he's creating this superhero team that pulls monsters out of people's closets, i.e. the name Monsters at Large. And he's telling me about the name that he chose, and I'm like, Monsters at Large? No, like, super mega monsters at large, or like, we're talking a little bit, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm weird. I'm like, well, I was once the leader of a super elite monster fighting team myself. And so it's just, it was stupid, but yeah, that was improvised. They rewrote it like minutes before I walked in. They go, would you, for us? I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. So it was fun. I just released another movie called A Walk with Grace. It's a faith-based comedy dramedy. I play a really angry acting coach with PTSD. It's crazy. Completely the opposite of Jason the Red Ranger, you'll see. So, and that's on Amazon, I think. Next. In the red. How long did it take to make an episode? In the time I've been in here, we would make 10. No, I'm kidding. We would crush 2 to 3 episodes in a week. I mean, we had an insane. So your average TV show, from Friends to Star Trek to any of these big shows, they'll do about 13 episodes a year. That's considered a season in the world of television. In a year, my first year, we did over 60 episodes. It was crazy. Crazy.
So, my little cousin, he's kind of like a 3-year-old. He won't watch anything else but your shows.
Well, that's okay. That's all right.
So, like, if it's my sister's party and my little cousin's over, he's like, let's watch some Power Rangers. And I'm like, no way, let's watch this movie instead. And he just gives me a stare and says, Power Rangers. And he won't stop.
So what does the Power Rangers stare look like? Go ahead.
I don't know. He just like stares at the football, like crosses his arms, stomps his foot, and says, Power Rangers.
That's known as pouting. So he pouts for Power Rangers, and then do you guys give him what he wants?
No.
Good for you. He's got to work on his pouting, clearly. Next. I didn't hear any of that.
What is that? Oh. Well, I mean,
I enjoyed going to New Zealand. That was awesome. I'd never been there. I wanted to see that. That was a great filming experience. I have a lot of photos with the cast and crew that I cannot publish yet, that I've been sitting on since last April when I was done filming. So what I can tell you is that I'm coming back on Beast Morphers. And that's about what I can tell you. They've gotten into pretty strict non-disclosure. I've had people, and I love how different people will come up and ask these questions though. Because some people will come up and they're like, hey man, can you tell me, are you coming back as the Red Ranger or the Gold Ranger or the Pink Ranger, what are you gonna be? Can you tell me? And I'm like, no. They're like, oh. And then I get other people that were like, they'll kind of do that whole, these are the little kids that were good at manipulating mom and dad. I know because I was one of them. And just be like, so, have any cool photos from filming that I can see? Translation, what cast members are coming back with you? I'm like, yeah. So I'll pull up a photo that has just me in it. What do you think of that one? Is that cool? Does that answer your question? Yeah. Oh, so that's getting other photos? And I'll just be like, Can I see them? No. Like, we can go round about this all you want, but I'm not getting sued for you. Next.
First of all, by the way, Power Rangers actually just released an official trailer with you in it this morning. So,
another one?
Yeah, they actually just put one out this morning. I was browsing and I actually happened to see it right before I got to your table. Secondly, I know that you've done a lot of cons, you've done a lot of different things, and it's like you said, it's hard to round you all up, but I can't imagine the popularity, the insanity that it would be if we got a con with you and Jason David Frank together. I mean, that would be absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I think
quite a few of the same shows.
Yeah, but I'm talking, sort of a little more personal, like photo ops together and things like that. I think if any fan really wanted to see something out of the original, because you two are the greatest. There are people who argue based on the generation they grew up, which Power Rangers they grew up with, but seeing that, I mean, do you feel like that's a possibility down the road? I mean,
You know, you never know what life holds. Schedule time, I mean, anything's possible somewhere. We'll see. I don't know. I know that there was a couple times we almost came back for the same episode, but then I ended up overseas for the war, and I couldn't come back. And I know that was Super Mega Smackdown or whatever that one was. But I know they asked me to come back for that one. I couldn't leave overseas to come do it.
Sure.
So there's been opportunities. Yeah, I mean, we did photo ops at the film premiere, but I guess we just haven't had a con. Next, in the very back. Did you say you were a medic? Thank you for your service, bro. I was not in the military. I was a DoD contract. I was attached to military operations. So I worked with the Army and Corps, and occasionally the Navy overseas. Even once I made an Air Force base, but I was very closely attached to operations. I worked with the QRF. I did a lot of different things. So I tried never to let the cat out of the bag. Some people are like, "Oh, he's ashamed." I mean, you're stupid. I'm not ashamed. I love what I did. I'm proud of what I did. But here we are in conflict, in an area full of conflict. I don't want my fans who are wearing uniforms and carrying rifles to get shot because I was a distraction. So I did my best to keep it very quiet overseas. I mean, to the point to where I grew out a full Osama bin Laden at one point. At another point, I shaved my head, like baby butt, bald. Anything I could to change my appearance. Rumors got around after 4 years that I was over there. So lots of soldiers, Marines, airmen, naval personnel, they knew I was there, but I changed my appearance so often I was pretty good at disappearing. Same thing when I was at the fire department. I didn't want to be a distraction to professionals who need to be focused when they do their job. And that job had to come first. So there you go. That was the answer. Yeah. What did I do? I had some reindeer sausage yesterday. It was good. I was like, oh, I gotta get some more of that. It's good. You guys know the creperie? Yeah. So I went in there and had this the Alaskan crepe. It was really good. I like stuff. How many of you like spicy food? The hotter the better for this guy. So I was like, yeah, Miss Sriracha. No, just bring me the bottle. It was great. So what should I experience here? Everybody tells me that like moose and elk are great, but they can't serve it at restaurants. Am I missing something? What's the deal? I missed that. Did anybody hear that?
Boils down to it's got to be USDA approved. That's what it boils down to.
Well, down to Uncle Sam wants his pennies. Okay. So how many of you had moose or elk? Well, clearly somebody's getting something on that. Where are you getting it? You hunting?
people are processing it on their own.
Bear turkey. I've had bear. That I've had. I've never had moose, elk. I've had bison. I've had bugs. I've eaten everything except for moose and elk. I feel like that's a letdown. Like I lost my man card. I gotta fix it. If anybody's got any extra moose, would you let me know? So although somebody was telling me that if you're driving down the road and you hit one, the police, you can't like dress the elk that you hit. Or CHP comes out, and I guess they have a call down list where they will call people, and then you can come out at 3 a.m. on the road and dress down your elk and take the meat back. Is that how that works?
Yeah, they also have, my state troopers also have, they call a donation company that'll take that meat and donate it to a family who needs meat.
That's awesome. Okay. That's cool. I'm not gonna get any moves. Call my mama. Well, what else?
What was the real reason for the zords being changed?
What was what?
The real reason the zords got changed?
I mean, she kind of summed it up. Anytime the Rangers or the Zords, well, the first time the Rangers changed, it was because I walked off the show and they hated me. But when the Zords changed, it was all about merchandising. And the reason they started changing Rangers so quickly after Walter Twee and I left was because they realized the more characters they brought in, the more stuff they had to sell. The show is and will always be for the owners about toys and merchandising. They don't care about the TV show. The TV show is filmed just to market the toys. They'll never tell you that, but those of you that are adults now, I mean, you get the math.
It's alluded to on the toys that made.
Yeah. They called me for that interview. And Saban was like, no, don't speak with him. Haim is the owner of the show, and he and I do not get along at all. It's probably embarrassing for him. Let a 20-year-old kid take you to court and win his freedom. He was a billionaire, and I was poor as you know what. But I won, damn it. Next, anybody?
What was your favorite run on the show? Was it the original one or one of your returns?
I mean, Forever Red was a lot of fun to come back to. That was fun. Coming back as a Gold Ranger, that was fun too. But I feel like I always come back to the original unaired pilot in like the first probably 10 episodes, because that was really the genesis of what the American show was going to be. That's where it was really recreated. And it was so different from the Japanese show, except for all the Japanese footage. So I kind of, probably the first 20 episodes would be my favorite run. Although I liked that we got to have more fun with other stuff later.
Did you enjoy coming back in Turbo, a Power Rangers movie?
Did I enjoy coming back in Turbo, the Power Rangers movie? Yeah, I did. Actually, I was dating this girl from the Texas bikini team. She was nuts. And she came to set with me while I was filming. And that was pretty cool. I've spent the whole time in other skin tight gear. Like, they hate me. I think that's the rule. Because I was in the, in the tube, and I've been out scuba diving, so I'm, in this all. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was a good time. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed the evil glowing eyes. When I found out that I could be evil, I was like, ooh, I don't have to be a good guy anymore. Bad guys have all the fun. Come on, am I right? Yeah. Captain America can stand there and, do the cheesy, but meanwhile, the bad guy is off with the cute girl, or all of them, and he's blowing stuff up. He's wearing the cool clothes with the spikes, and he's got the cool facial hair. And I'm like, oh, the good guys, they don't want good guys to have facial hair. For my return, I had to shave my face. I'm like, come on. I'm not coming back at 18. I mean, are we clear on that? So I was excited when I found out I could be evil. I was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. They're like, and you're gonna kick the you-know-what out of 3 Rangers. It's like, even better. Let's go. So, it was good times. I got a quiz for you. How many of you know who was pregnant in the movie Turbo? In the back. Yeah.
Hillary Shepard.
Hillary Shepard.
Yeah.
You could not tell. She was 3 months along, and she was beautiful. So if you see her, you should tell her, wow, we didn't know, and you look amazing. She'd love to hear that. And she still looks amazing. She's still a beautiful girl. Next.
Did you like the newest movie that came out and the way they modernized the Power Rangers? Or what's your opinion on that movie?
There were things I liked. There were things I didn't like. Let's do a little study here. I'm sure we probably don't have any entomologists in the room. Anybody a bug studier? Probably not. Okay, but you don't have to be an entomologist to understand. How many legs does a cockroach have? 6?
Yeah.
Right. How many legs does a mastodon have? 4. So why did they give the mastodon 6 legs? I mean, that. Some more merchandise. Look at this. Here's the one screwed up mastodon. It's like, it's not a cockroach, it's a mastodon. Come on. That part really upset me. I don't know why. But I thought Rita was hot. I was like, okay. If that had been my Rita, it might have been the evil Red Ranger song. I would have switched teams for that one. I didn't like the Zords, like any of the Zords. And what's the point to wearing the costume if your mask is up the whole time. I mean, there's no secret if the mask is up. I'm just saying. And they're in the Zord with their masks up in public. I was like, yeah, that never would happen in my day. And then all the fights, like all of the putty fights, we would go out and we would fight putties forever before the monster would grow, and then we would grow, and then the Zords, and there was this escalation that was always how we did it. And we always fought. Like, my character fought all the time. And the Red Ranger in that show, he fought for like 2 seconds. And then we're all in Zords. It's like, wait a minute, where are the fights? And they kind of gave all the teams like this troubled undertone, I mean, I get it. I came from a troubled home. I get it. I had some issues, still have issues. That's why I got that twitch. But it's a kid's film. Why do we need to put that in there? You know what I mean? I mean, what are we doing here? I don't know. But if they thought my opinion mattered, they would have asked me.
I love your point, because I actually very recently just rewatched it, and I said a lot of the same things. And from a marketing perspective, talking about selling merchandise, when they resold these new Zords, and they were extremely ugly. When they resold them, they were ugly. When they resold them, you didn't. You either bought as a whole Zord or you bought separate Zords together, because you couldn't put them together like every other show gave you the opportunity to do. And I felt like the 2017 movie was very, very lazy. It was very Iron Man-y with the way that you saw a bunch of things. Transformers may be more realistic with it, but the way everything just kind of broke down and connected was very cybernetic, as opposed to watching these Zords actually come together. And I think from a marketing perspective, from a fan perspective, that was always a big piece for me. Like, being able to watch the show and take all the Zords and put them together and just watch the Megazord come together. That was something they didn't give you in the film. So I don't know. I'm listening to your opinion. I'm actually, I don't find a lot of people are on the same page as you and I with it. All the things you mentioned so far have been my kind of gripes with the show. I think the movie was, I think if you look at it as its own standing thing, I think it's cool. But as a Power Rangers film, I just don't think it fits.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that will swing either way on it. My favorite scene in the whole movie was something else I also would never have been allowed to do in my day, where Jason straight up pimp slaps the bully. In detention, and he's like,
that was a great scene.
I could never do that. That was, he hit him in the head, and the camera was on, and they didn't delete it. I was like, I couldn't. Why would they let me do that? I was so deprived. It was a good time. It's something, and I mean, I would hate. Could you imagine, like if they had called me to come back and be, I don't know, who's an iconic, Luke Skywalker. Incredibly flattered I would be, but incredibly intimidated at having to fill shoes of that magnitude.
Right.
So to each of the actors who came back to play Jason and Trini, I mean, they're crossing 3 generations in 40 countries in 90 languages, 400 million fans worldwide. They're stepping into shoes that everybody is familiar with or has some memory of growing up. Even if it was they hated the show and refused to watch it, they still know the original characters. So I have to take my hat off to them, because that took a lot of fortitude to come back and even to say yes. So I just wish the writers had done a different job with it.
So one other thing, sorry. Do you have any future projects coming up, like not, Power Rangers or not? Anything cool we should look out for?
Yeah, right now, if you have your phones out, you can go to ihearthope.org. It's a charitable organization that I'm helping to build right now. We work with autism, homeless children, addiction. We're all over the field in a lot of different work. So that's something that's going on in Florida that we're building. I have another film that I just released called A Walk with Grace. That's out on Amazon. I did an Amazon Prime TV series 2 years ago called Fireball Run. I did season 11. It's the most recent season. So if you're on Amazon Prime, just look up Fireball Run. And then it's the season, I think it was published in 19. You'll see it in 2019, called Big Country. So I did that. That was probably 20 or 30 episodes. I'm talking right now to some promoters for an upcoming web series called Adultish. So they do some great stuff. They're out of New York. I think I'll probably be working with them later this year. And I have 2 other scripts that I'm looking at that I think I may be doing for films later this year. I have a video game I'm releasing called Black Salt Corruption. And we have I've signed, well, we've signed with everybody, but Nintendo is going to be our first release, and I think we're finally going to book it the end of, it'll be end of first quarter, so I'm hoping by the end of March, early April at the latest, that will be out. It's currently on Steam. If you guys like action fighting games, it's the world's only 3D arena martial arts fighting game. You can find it on Steam.com right now, I think for like $10. It's cheap now. But it'll be out on Nintendo first, and then we'll hit Sony and Xbox. And actually, we just signed with the NFL, so we got a great sponsorship deal with the NFL. So there's going to be some big stuff coming with that.
Sweet.
And we're talking to some of the guys in the world of MMA too. So there's more to come with that one. I have my online store, austinstjohn.biz, where I do sign paraphernalia. I have a custom ring. I find a lot of brand new artists, guys who do hand-drawn and custom work. And I like to help put them on the map by bringing their artwork to my store. I sell it, they get the recognition with their names, and kind of benefits all parties. Helps put young new talent on the map without me doing what was done to me by Saban. So I feel like there's about 40 other things I'm doing, but off the top of my head, I think that's it right now. I do master's classes in the world of martial arts several times a year, usually up in Ohio. I'm shopping a TV series pilot that was written by another ranger. I'm not going to divulge that information just yet. And I'm shopping that now to some of the network affiliates to see if I can get it picked up for a new series. And it's pretty cool. That's a long ways off. If that happens, we'll see. The Order, you guys remember The Order?
Yeah.
So talk with Karen Ashley. She's on Facebook. Hit her up. Ask her what's going on with that. I'm just an actor. I'm not a producer on that one, so I'm not charging anything except showing up and doing my in front of the camera work. Probably have a lot more. For some reason, I'm drawing blanks. Anybody else? Was that you in the back? Go ahead.
Did you know that King Sean is from Alaska?
Who?
King Sean, I guess she's a Pink Ranger. Somebody texted me, said that she's from Pink Rangers from Alaska.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Somebody in front had a question. Was that you? Was that you, buddy? What is it? What is what?
What is your least favorite villain, he said?
Least favorite. Wow, there's a lot of villains. Least favorite. I wasn't really crazy about Eye Guy. Oh, okay. All right. So, as writers, these guys were cranking out episodes every week. There was a whole team of writers. They had to work hard. I'm sure after like episode 100, they're going, I'm running out of ideas for the monster. Like, what are we going to make a monster out of? We've made Eye Guys. We've made things that should not exist that I still can't unsee. But, you know, at some point, the well's got to begin to dry up. And I think what happened on this day is one writer was late, probably one of the ladies, and all the guys are sitting there and they're banging their heads like, we don't have any monster ideas. And this lady comes in and she sets down a purse, which happened to be a pink purse. She sets it down on the table and all the guys go, that's it! And we fought a purse. It was a big pink purse with a zipper all the way up the front. And I remember looking at this thing in ADR as I'm laying down my fights, and I've got to be, come on guys, you know, like I've got to be real. And I'm looking at a pink purse. And I'm just like, hey guys, come on, can we, I don't know, anything else? Anything? Like a ring. A ring would be better than a purse. Does it say Gucci somewhere? Or is this imitation, like New York Street level? I mean, and they were like, yeah, this is a monster. Are you ready to record your lines? Okay, all right. So, there might have been a few laughter, but the pink purse, I don't even remember its official name, but I hated it. It made me crazy. I was like, where's the threat? Really? Gonna lipstick me, or, I mean, you know, is this... I'm gonna get stuck in the zipper. That would have been funny. That would have been fun. Look, the Megazord's stuck in the zipper. Oh, yeah. All right, so, next. Yeah.
Did you get a huge shock when you saw Jason and Amy in the 2017 Power Rangers movie?
No, I knew they were in it. For 3 seconds at the end of the film. No, I wasn't shocked at all. Actually, I felt sorry for him. It's like, that's why I didn't come back, guys. Not doing 3 seconds at the end of a film with a camera. Yeah, that's pretty cheesy. What's up?
What was your funniest moment on the show?
Oh man, so many. A lot of pranks. You know, okay, so I come back to being an 18-year-old boy and, you know, being insecure as snot, but thinking that, you know, at 18, you're like, yeah, you know, I know just enough to think I know everything. No, I really know everything. You think you're a pretty smart guy at 18. And, you know, you're pretty good with stuff, and I was in good shape. I remember walking into the dressing room, and I had never, ever, since I was like, what, 6, probably dressed or undressed in front of anybody. And I walked in the wardrobe, and there's 3 ladies standing there, one of which was a producer at the time. She was a little creepy, a lot creepy. And the other 2 were, you know, beautiful girls. So now I'm this 18-year-old boy around beautiful women, and I'm already just like twitching because they were gorgeous. And I'm insecure, even though I could never admit it even to myself. And they're like, okay, great, there's your clothes. Go ahead and try them on. And I was like, oh, all right. So I go over and I pick out a set of clothes, and I'm looking around, and I don't see a dressing room, and I'm like, where should I change? And they're like, right here. I was like, that was probably one of those funny moments where any thought of being cool, you know, I'm about to be a superhero in a television show. You want me to do what? Get naked in front of 3 women? Like, mind blown. So I look back on it now and I laugh at the level of my insecurity. You know, I stripped down to my BVDs and they changed me right there. And they didn't care. Because ask any actor, especially models who do runway or things like that. I mean, you go back behind the curtains, clothes fly off, you got 3 people dressing you, men, women, it doesn't matter. It's just how the show goes. But I didn't know that. So that was kind of one of those moments where I was like, no, really, come on, there's a toilet somewhere. Can I change in there, you know? And yeah, so I had a lot of very hard lessons. Like the zipper. Ladies, you guys are quite a bit more flexible than we as men are. We know this because you can do those Duma witches in the back. You can reach those. We as guys, we can't do those when we're staring at them, right? Well, the zipper to the suit was on the back. And I could reach the top, but I couldn't pull it down. So I learned very quickly to make sure before I was in the suit and went to set the film that I went to the bathroom. Because I can't tell you how many times the Red Ranger almost became the Yellow Ranger because I couldn't. There were a few occasions where that was a close call. So yeah. So those were some funny moments. And at Walter on occasion, I'd go over to Walter and be like, Walt, can you? And this is another thing as guys, we don't say, right? It's not normal. You don't walk up to another dude and be like, hey, could you unzip me? You know, like we don't do that, right? Not most of us. And so that was kind of one of those funny things you have to adjust to. If you have a shell, you're gonna lose it in Hollywood very quickly. They will break you out of whatever shell you have with gusto. So yeah, those were some funny moments. There may have been some pranks where I threw food at people. The food fight scene, you guys remember the food fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I threw a whole cream pie. They had the entire set like covered and taped off, plastic everywhere, the camera's covered, but they had to leave a hole for the lens of the camera, for the camera LCD screen, and for the best boy and the director. They all had to have holes through the plastic to see for filming. And they gave me a pie. And they said, don't hit those spots. Come on, haven't you figured out you can't do things like that with me yet? I was like, don't hit what? Oh, those spots. Why? Because there was nobody standing in them at first. I'm like, well, that's going to be the director, and that's so you can throw anywhere you want in here for the fight. Don't hit those spots. I was like, okay. Yeah, I plowed the director right in the face. It was great. It was great. And of course, I made it look like I slipped, but he knew better. He knew better. He was not happy with me. And then Paul walked over afterwards, not even knowing that I had pied the director. He just saw whipped cream on his face. And Paul, who played Bulk, walks over and just like licks straight up the side of his face. He's like, "We're pregnant." Yes. And the director, he was new to the show, so he didn't really know us. He's just standing there like, just quaking. I was like, "Hey, welcome to Power Rangers. Good to meet you, pal." Yeah, I probably got cut out of a lot of that show. He didn't like me much, but it was fun. Yeah. Anybody else?
Did you ever, were you able to pick up your suit or anything from set? And if so, what was your
You know, I probably could have. I did not. When I left set, I left everything. If I had it to do over, I probably would have kept my communicator. That was kind of a special thing for me. I broke that thing 1,000 times in fights. And here's another Easter egg for you. When you go back and you watch the series, 9 times out of 10 when Zordon calls, we would hold the watch like this. Like, yeah, Zordon, come in. You could always tell when I had just broken it in a fight scene and they didn't have time to repair it yet, which usually was just like duct tape, literally. And I would answer it would be like this, and I'm holding the clasps together underneath. And I won't tell you, there's 3 episodes out of the 100 plus that I did where you can see me doing this, and it's because it was broken. So I would love to have kept my communicator, probably the original stunt helmet, the one that I sweated like you know what in from all the stunts and fights. And I guess maybe I would have kept the suit, but it was more the helmet and the communicator. And the morphers were, like the morphers you guys have now are pretty intense. They're really cool. They're nothing like the cheapo junk we had. So ours were like this hardened polyurethane, spray painted mess. It was nothing worth keeping. And I think maybe I would like to have kept the bench press that I did the bench press competition on for 1 episode. It was funny because that was a competition. They filmed that thing from so many different directions. And I think, I don't even know how much weight was on there. Maybe it was 100 pounds. It was nothing. But I did it so many times that day because they would film. They're like, just go, go, go. And I think the director was getting to me. But I'm pretty sure I bench pressed that 100 pounds hundreds of times. So by the time I was done, in the beginning I was like, I do this all day long. 2 hours later, I'm like, maybe not. So, yeah, it was maybe a few things like that. Walter got to keep somebody gave him the sign for Ernie's Juice Bar. That would have been really cool.
That's cool.
Because Rich Gianelli, who played Ernie, he's gone now. But that would have been pretty cool to have. I don't know. I guess that would have been it. Probably what I would have kept. Anybody?
So earlier you said your favorite movie was one you couldn't do. With your background in regards, how much that influenced what you did do on the show?
Well, what they really wanted, they wanted the kicks. They were really looking for more of my Taekwondo skill set, high kicks, flying kicks, all that stuff. But I mean, my given preference, I'm a hand-to-hand combat. I like close quarters. So rapid hands, chokes, elbows, strikes, kimbo, Krav Maga, stuff like that. And those in and of themselves are pretty brutal. Krav is a combat art, so it doesn't really fit in a kid's show. Little guy right there. Do you have a question, bud? No?
How did it feel when you came back to play Gold Ranger?
That was fun. I had just come back. I'd been doing a lot of competing in the world of martial arts, so I had probably doubled in size. When I came back as a Gold Ranger, I was a tank. And I remember the director coming down and the producers, and they're like, you can't go shirtless anymore. You do not look like a teenage boy. I'm 22. I'm not a teenage boy anymore. But I think they let me into a tank top once. But I had fun just kind of seeing the dynamic. It was interesting to be the 6th Ranger. And you had the theme song and all the bling, the gizmos and all that. So that was pretty cool. And I still think Gold Ranger is the the most powerful Ranger created. So you had the power of 3 Rangers, and that was, I don't think it's been done anywhere else. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I signed that TV deal the same time I signed for the movie Turbo.
You said practice martial arts.
Yeah, I teach a couple times a year. So I don't practice like I used to, but I'm still active. How are we doing on time? Last question. Go ahead. Yeah. Early on, we had, well, I won't leave the stunt coordinator's name in it, I'll leave him out of it. But there was a stunt being set up, and it was a fight I had. We were filming at Griffith Park at the observatory. And you would recognize that in the episode. It was very green, foresty, I guess. But anyway, there was this fight that was taking place under a swing set. And I was supposed to come in and kick the feet out of a monster. He was tied by two ends onto this big wire. And it's called a wire gag. And when I sweep his feet, he was supposed to like do a double flip and then slam down onto the ground. Well, we did the rehearsal, put the stuntman in his belt, had him buckled up, kicked his feet, did the flip, everything worked out great. But they didn't test the wire with the weight of the monster suit he was supposed to be in, which was another 90 pounds. So, and I can remember people asking the stunt coordinator at the time, hey, shouldn't we do this with the suit on him, you know, to test the wire strength? And he's like, no, I got it. We worked out all the calculations. And as an actor, I was like, I'll stay to do another couple practice runs, you know, if you need me to do this. Like, it's not an inconvenience for me, because other people were telling me this is a dangerous gig. And the stunt guys were like, this is how it should be done. Practice this way. It's like, okay. And so they didn't practice, and I came in, and it was the very first take. And I came in, kicked at his feet, the wire yanked, and he went up, and it didn't control his fall. He did a double backflip, landed on his leg, and snapped it. And what made it really horrible is the guy was a world level champion Wing Chun fighter, and he was just getting ready to go to China for the world championships, and it destroyed his shots at the title. And I remember that clearly. That was the only really bad injury, but that I'm aware of anyway. There may have been others later, but that was a good one. All right, is that it? Okay, well, this is it for Fairbanks panel. Thanks for coming to see me, guys. I'm gonna head back to my table. Those of you who haven't been by, stop by, we'll talk and do our thing, okay? All right, much love. Bye-bye.